Welcome everybody to Learn to Sew a Simple Tote Bag. My name is Dana. I am the editor of FaveCrafts and I will be emceeing the class for you today. A couple logistic things before we get started. The class is going to be recorded. It's recording right now. So you will get a copy of the recording in about 24 hours. Keep an eye out from an email from Zoom that will send you the recording. If you have any questions throughout the class, it's a live class today. So if you have questions for Jessica, let us know in either the chat or the Q&A feature, either one. The Q&A is a little easier to see the questions. So, but whichever way, just ask us your questions and we'll do our best to answer them. The class is only an hour, so we'll try to get to as many as we can, but if not, you will have the recording to hopefully rewatch and clarify things. Then on to the next slide. So I'm gonna minimize the thumbnail here. Cool. Thank you so much to our sponsor, We Like Sewing Magazine, for providing this class for free today. So We Like Sewing is a totally digital magazine, and when just from attending the class today, you get this special introductory offer. Normally the magazine is $49 for an annual subscription, but you can get it for $5. That means you'll get 6 digital issues of the magazine. You'll get access to all of the previously published patterns, and it's all totally ads free, and the patterns are all tech edited. So they should be pristine, beautiful, perfect patterns. No ads, and you get this all for $5 for the annual subscription. The link to get that subscription is welikesewing.com/webinar22, and I'll drop that in the chat in a few minutes once we get started. Now onto the part that you guys are probably most excited about. Jessica is teaching our class today, Learn to Sew a Tote Bag. Jessica is an artist and fabric and surface pattern designer. She creates colorful, magically uplifting artwork that inspires others to live colorful, unique, and hope-filled lives. She creates and manufactures her own products to sell in her Portland, Oregon studio. She also licenses her artwork to others for branded products such as fabric, stationery, puzzles, books, and more. And her online classes include pattern design, color, and intuitive art making. You'll see her use some of the fabric that she's designed in the class today. I think that's everything, Jessica. I'm going to stop screen sharing so that you can get started. I think that's everything. Any questions, just let me know.
Great. Okay, I'm excited. Man, I love making tote bags because they seem like they should be more intimidating than they actually are in my experience. Like the fact that you can make a bag in an hour or less is like, wow, that's so cool. So here is the sample bag. And so I'm going to be making a version of this with different fabric, but it's going to be the same tote bag. And so let's get started. So what I thought would be easiest would be starting with making the handles. So I've cut, hopefully you have everything pre-cut for your bag. And so I have 4 different pieces. I'm gonna make my handles two-tone, I guess. Excuse me, I've had a little bit of a cold recently. And then I have 2 pieces cut for a pocket. So if you don't have to put a pocket on yours, that's up to you, but I'm going to put a pocket in mine because, you know, pockets are useful on the inside. So let's start with the handle. So I'm going to take my 2 pieces and I'm going to sew down this, the edge, down both edges at about a 1/4 inch seam. And so this is where, like, if you're a beginning sewer, my mom taught me to sew when I was a kid, and I've always been the kind of sewist that just kind of like wings it. I'm not too concerned with everything being perfect or exactly right. And so you may or may not be the same, but for whatever that's worth, like just give yourself permission to just kind of try it and make mistakes. And if your seam is not quite a 1/4 inch, like that's okay. It's all going to work out just fine. So Dana, you can switch over to watch my hands now. So I'm going to sew down the side of both. Oh, and this is important too. Your machine may or may not look similar to mine, but I'm going to work with a 3.5 stitch, which that's just what I prefer. It's like a nice medium length stitch, basically. The lower the number, the tighter the stitch, and the bigger the number, the longer the stitch is going to be. So this is just kind of a good middle ground. Okay, so here we go. So all the way down. And you can pin this if that makes you feel more comfortable, but I like to just kind of make sure that the edges are together. Sometimes I have to stop and readjust it just to make sure.
Jessica, Dana Lewis is wondering what type of sewing machine you're using.
Oh, this is a Viking. I don't actually even know how to say this. Husqvarna, I think is how you say it. And this is like, again, I'm not an expert sewer at all. I don't know a lot about sewing machines. I had an old kind of inexpensive sewing machine that I traded in a while back, and the person at the sewing machine shop talked me into this one. So I've ended up liking it. I've had it for a couple of years. But like for a long time, I just had like a really simple, inexpensive Kenmore, and that worked just fine. Like you do not need a fancy sewing machine to sew cool stuff. It's just, you don't have to spend thousands of dollars or even hundreds of dollars on a sewing machine. Okay, so I finished one side here, and I'm just going to go ahead and go right down the other side.
Jessica, which weight thread are you using? I forget.
Pardon?
What weight thread are you using?
Oh, it's just, and again, like this is not fancy. It's just all purpose, like Coates and Clark thread. I don't even know. Yeah, it just says all purpose. I don't know if that answers your question at all. Like, again, I'm just kind of, I don't have any like specific thread companies that I like necessarily, or weights of thread. I just tend to use, just like all purpose when sewing with cotton. That may or may not be what I'm supposed to do, but it is what what I do. Okay, so I've got one finished here. I'm going to do the same thing for the other handle, and then we'll turn them right side out after I've sewn this one. So we'll just do the same thing, sewing right down the edge. Uh-oh, I lost my thread. Hold on a second. Tip, make sure that you have a nice thread tail coming out of your needle so your thread doesn't fall out like mine just did. Okay. Let's see here. Your machine may have like a needle threader, which can be useful too. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to stop and adjust. And we'll go down the other side, just like before. Okay, so now I've got both handles sewn, and we're going to turn them right side out. So I have, I don't know, can you see this on the screen? This is like my tool of choice, which is kind of a weird tool. It's like an old paint covered skewer stick. So basically you can use anything that's kind of like long and thin and relatively pointy, like a pencil or a chopstick, anything like that will work. So you basically just need to kind of find a way to turn this the right way out. Sometimes you can just use your fingers, but this part can be a little bit tricky because it's kind of thin. So bear with me here. Okay.
I never would have thought of that, but it's, yeah, so useful to have a tool like that.
Yeah, I think like when my mom was a doll maker when I was growing up, and she used to have this cool like metal turning tool. And I'm sure, I mean, I know that there are a lot of tools that exist out there that probably make this kind of thing a lot easier, but I feel like in a beginning sewing class, I just wanted to make it, you know, very accessible. Like you don't need a lot of fancy things. You don't need specific things. Like you can find things around your house, like a skewer stick that will help you do what you need to do rather than, you know, having to buy the exact like turning tool that you need. Like you can make things without having all the, you know, quote unquote proper equipment. So I'm having trouble doing this while I'm trying to talk at the same time.
Dana Lewis says that you can also use a knitting noodle.
Yeah,
Noodle,
there you go. That's
needle.
Yep. Crochet hook would work. Like a pen. There are all kinds of things that you could use to get this job done. Sorry, normally this is not quite so ridiculous, taking forever. But there we go. I also feel a little bit nervous because I've never taught a sewing class before, so I think that's part of what's going on too. A little bit of nerves.
We're excited for your class today.
What's that?
We're excited for the class today.
Well, let's hope we come out with some cute bags. That's the goal, right? Some cute, simple bags. All right, come on, you silly handle. Hopefully the next one will come out a little bit more easily.
Christy says she uses a big straw to switch them out.
That's a good idea. Yeah, this one is being particularly annoying right now, but it's gonna work.
Oh, everyone says you're awesome and you're doing great.
I don't know why like this just got totally stuck. Okay. Go, silly thing. Okay, there we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Sort of. All right. This might be the most difficult part of the class. It's turning this dang handle. Okay. Well, hopefully you guys are a little bit further along on yours than I am. If you are further than me and you want to go on to the next step, I'm going to skip the next step just so I don't have to get up from my sewing machine. But what I would do if I were doing this, you know, not live teaching a class, is I would take this over to my iron and press the edges just to make it nice and flat. I'm just going to try to smooth it out as best as I can. And then do the same thing with the next one. So feel free to press if you would like. Otherwise, you don't have to. I'm going to do my best to turn this next one and hope that it goes a little more smoothly than the last. See what happens. And then we'll move on to the pocket. Okay. I have a larger skewer that I use sometimes too, but I didn't grab that one. That one might have been a better call for this job. I also use this skewer for painting. So this is like one of my favorite little multi-purpose tools for scratching into paint and things.
I was just going to ask, what do you use it for in painting?
Yeah, like scratching into wet paint, scratching shapes into it or words sometimes. Yeah, I like to use just around the house things to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish sometimes. And yeah, my tools often are used for multiple types of creative projects. Okay. All right, well, this doesn't have to be as difficult as I'm making it look, but it is what it is today, I guess.
Got more people sharing what they use. So Carly uses a ruler first to pull through, and then when it gets fidgety, she uses a piece of elastic attached to a pin and then onto the fabric to pull through.
Oh, that's a good idea. Oh my gosh, see, people are so clever. And like we pick up these funny tips from, who knows where, moms, friends, online classes, like all over the place. Like my mom taught me certain ways to do things, and they're just the ways that I've done them since I was a kid. And, it's like we pick up these funny beliefs too, like sewing is hard, or the sewing machine is intimidating. Like I remember my mom was she never sewed zippers. And she also was afraid of sewing stretchy fabric. So I just always thought like, oh, well, I can't sew zippers because it's too hard and I can't sew stretchy fabric. And then one day I was like, why do I think that? And so I taught myself to do both of those things. And I realized, oh, it's not that hard. It just, takes a little bit of different skills, I guess, or more finesse or something. All right, we're almost there.
Alma is asking if you recommend any interfacing.
I don't use interfacing that often. When I'm trying to make a bag more, like give it more weight, I guess, I tend to like to use like batting for quilting, which I don't know, it's definitely not as easy to use because interfacing, I know you can iron it on so it sticks to the fabric, and with the batting you have to just kind of like layer it in there. Although I do think there might be I don't know if there's batting that you can iron on. But I tend to like that better because I've found that with interfacing, it makes a bag kind of like stiffer than I like and kind of crinkly in a way. And maybe I just haven't used the right interfacing, but with batting, it just makes it kind of soft and pliable, while also giving it a heavier weight. Oh my gosh, I am so sorry that this is taking a ridiculous amount of time. Okay, hopefully everyone has moved on to the next step by now while I'm just finicking with this thing. Oh my gosh, we're gonna waste the whole hour turning handles. Come on.
Gabrielle has this like coolest comment. She says she has 2 original paintings and many prints of yours in her house.
Oh, yay.
Oh yeah.
That's so wonderful. Thank you. Nice to see people from my creative world here. Oh my gosh, this is just being a bear right now, and I don't know why. Okay. All right, well, the next step is that if you want to give your handles a little bit more of a flat kind of solid dimension, I'm going to sew a couple of seams down the center of each handle. So, oh my gosh. Okay, almost there. Okay, getting so close. I promise this doesn't usually go this way. I don't know what the deal is today. One of those days, I guess. Okay. And I broke my skewer too. Oh my God. This is unbelievable. Okay. Okay, so don't use this same kind of tool because this is clearly not the best thing for the job. Come on, darn thing. Okay. There we go. Okay, finally. Okay, so I'm going to smooth this out just like I did the other one. And then, okay, so mine are going to look not probably as good as they could since I'm not going to press this, but basically you can get as precise with this next step as you want, but I am just going to kind of eyeball it. I'm going to sew a seam right down the edge. Okay. Sure that's flat. Okay, and then I'm just going to turn it. And then do the same thing down the other side. Okay. So now we've got a handle. Hopefully you can see that okay. And then we'll do the same thing with the next one. And then we're going to put these pesky handles to the side. Okay. And turn it. And then go down the other side the same way.
We have a question. What kind of needle are you using on the machine?
Again, it's just like an all-purpose kind of all-purpose needle for button quilting weight fabric. I don't know the specific brand. I think it might be a Singer needle. Yeah, again, nothing fancy, just a basic needle. Okay, so I'm going to put the handles to the side. Another thing that I did want to mention too is that if you want to skip the whole handle step, you can use, can you see this? I can't remember what this stuff is called. Webbing. I think it's called webbing. This stuff is great for handles too. So if you want to skip that whole step, you can, find that in sewing shops and on the internet. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the actual bag. And I have my pieces cut for the outside. So I'm going to be using this rainbow fabric with this bird fabric. So it's going to end up looking like, hopefully you can see that. So this will be the top, this will be the bottom. So I'm going to put these right sides together and sew right down this edge here. Again, using about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I'm going to back stitch this just to make sure it stays together. And again, you can pin this or clip it if you want to, if that helps you keep things together, but I tend to just kind of adjust as I go, making sure that my edges are together. Okay.
Marlene is asking, she has made a denim tote and wants to use webbing for the handles. Does she need to reinforce the bag, like reinforce the handles to the bag, like double it over to keep it from fraying?
Double the bag over? Oh, I just realized I didn't make the pocket. I'll do that next. I'm not sure I totally understand. Does she need to double over the denim? Is that
The
what
handle, she says.
Oh, the handle. I don't know about doubling over the handle. I think reinforcing the handles with extra stitches is always a good idea, just to make sure they don't pull through. You could use a zigzag stitch too. I think that would help with any fraying that might happen. Zigzag right along the edge of the denim and the handle. Does that help? Does that answer the question? Let me know if that answers the question.
Yeah, we'll do.
Okay.
She says,
All
yeah,
right.
she thought that too.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think reinforcing handles is always a good idea. Because the heavier stuff that you're going to put in the bag, the more chance there is for it to pull through. So yeah, I would definitely do that. Okay. And I realized I said I was going to make the pocket and I didn't do that. So we'll do that.
Double checking, you're using the straight stitch?
Using a straight stitch. Yep.
Perfect.
Totally basic. Yeah, we're going to use a straight stitch for this whole project just for ease. Okay, so I've got the bag fronts done now. So I'm going to set these to the side and we'll make the pocket. So I've got two rectangular pieces here that I'm going to place right sides together, wrong sides out. And we're just going to sew around most of it, leaving a little bit of an opening. I'm going to start here. Hopefully you can see that, and go around the edges and then leave a little opening here, which will be the bottom of the pocket. Okay, so I'm going to back stitch that. And for me, my sewing machine has funny measurements. It's like millimeters instead of, inches. So I tend to, for my seam allowances, for better or for worse, I just tend to line it up with the edge of my foot here. And that works for me. So. That helps me keep things straight also. I can just keep it right at the edge of my foot. Opening. Okay, and then we're going to turn this right side out and poke out the corners. And then what I would do if I were doing this on my own is I would go and I would press this so it was really nice and flat. And for this opening, you want to make sure that the edges are folded down. So when you're sewing on the pocket, you're sewing down those edges flat. So you're not seeing any of the, the frayed edge of the fabric there. So I'm just going to try to press that with my fingers. So it's nice and flat and folded. And then let me grab my little poker. You can poke out the corners with whatever sharp pointy thing you have around. And then I am going to sew along the top edge, I'm just going to sew one little seam just to kind of make the top edge of the pocket look a little bit more finished when it's on the fabric. Okay. And then, Dana, it's about 11:30. Is this a good time to pause? I think this is a pretty decent pausing point.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay.
So let me go ahead and share my screen. Bear with me as I get the slideshow pulled back up. All right. So everybody, we're going to do an intermission right now and talk about our upcoming classes and thank our sponsor again. So if you need to stretch or go get a glass of water, you can go do that. Otherwise, I hope you'll sign up for some of our future classes, which I'll talk about now. So obviously right now we're in Learn to Sew a Tote Bag. On Thursday, we actually have 2 classes this week, which is rare for us. We are rounding out National Sewing Month is September. And so we're rounding it out with another sewing class on Thursday. It's Learn to Sew an Apron. And that's with Jane Klaus. That is at the same time, 11 a.m. Central. So that's coming up this week. If you haven't signed up, please do. Next week, if you are into crochet, we have Learn to Crochet a Christmas Ornament. So this is a good class for a more experienced beginner. If you've never picked up a crochet hook, this might be a little advanced for you. Otherwise, it's a really fun class, and you'll learn tapestry crochet. That is coming up, next Tuesday. And then the following week on Tuesday, October 11th, we have Learn to Knit 2.0 with Marley Bird. That class is the continuation of our Learn to Knit class, and it focuses on the purl stitch. If you are interested in any of these classes, you can check them out at favecrafts.eventbrite.com. And we're always adding new classes. We have more lined up for October, November, December as well. So stay tuned. And then thank you again to our sponsor, We Like Sewing Magazine. If you have not signed up for the magazine before, we have an introductory offer for you for $5 for the annual subscription. That's a 90% discount. You'll get 6 digital issues of the magazine and access to the entire pattern library when you sign up. So definitely check that out. That's welikesewing.com/webinar22. And we'll put both those links in the chat, the Eventbrite link and the We Like Sewing link, so you can check all those things out. So awesome. I'm going to stop my screen share. And we are back to you, Jessica.
Okay, great. Okay, so I grabbed a piece of my liner fabric next, and I'm going to attach the pocket. So I lined this up. I kind of centered it. Again, I tend to kind of just eyeball things. You can be as precise as you would like. So I put this about 5 inches down from the top of my liner. So that'll be kind of, a little bit above the center of the inside of the bag. And then I've got my pocket about 4.5 inches from each of the edges. So what I'm going to do, you can pin that in place. Where did I put my pins? They're there. Just to make sure that it doesn't shift while you're sewing. And then we're going to sew around these 3 edges here, leaving the top of the pocket open. And you'll want to make sure to backstitch at the top. Pocket in place, and then go as slowly as you need to make sure your pocket doesn't move around too much. Okay, and then as I'm doing the bottom, I want to be mindful of that opening where the edges are folded under. I want to try to keep those folded under. And again, if you've pressed it, that'll be a little bit easier. Okay. Last edge. Okay. And then that. Okay, so we've got our pocket sewn on now. And you can see, there's our little pocket. Okay, I'm going to set that to the side and I'm going to go back to the outside of the bag. So what you want to do next is take your two pieces, and again, you can pin them or clip them if you like, or you can just kind of go for it like I tend to do. And you're going to sew around all of the edges except the top. So using, again, a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, I'm gonna stays together. Sometimes my sewing machine doesn't like getting started at the corner. Okay. All right, here we go. Okay, and I'm going to try to fold these seams out. If you're pressing the fronts here, you can press your seams out flat like that. That'll make them easier to sew, and I'm just going to kind of try to hold it in place there. Flat. Okay. And we'll turn. Go along the bottom. Okay. And then we'll do the same thing over here. Open those up so they're nice and flat. And on the back. Okay. Here. All right, almost done.
Julie is asking, is it okay not to tie off the thread for secure fixing?
The way that I like to think about that, I tend to backstitch or tie it off most of the time, just because that's kind of the habit that I'm in. But I think that if it's a seam that's going to be sewn over from a different direction, it's okay not to backstitch or tie it off. Like, for example, I didn't have to do it here because this is going to be sewn onto the lining. So it's all going to be kind of sewn together, if that makes sense. So these seams are not going to be left open. They're going to be kind of finished because there's going to be another seam going over it the other direction. But anything that you want to keep in place, like I want to make sure that this doesn't open at all at the edges since I'm going to be sewing it to the lining. So backstitching just kind of ensures that it's going to stay put. Does that answer the question?
I think so. That was great. Thank you.
Okay. Another little trick, I didn't do this on the pocket, but I maybe should have. If you cut off the edge of your corner, I'm not sure if it's very easy to see that, but I cut just like pretty close to the corner there. This just makes it so your corners can turn out a little more like with less bulk. So I cut off those two corners, and then I'm going to turn this right side out and poke out those corners.
Sarah is asking,
Okay.
can you use vinyl for the bottom of the bag?
I don't see why not. Yeah, you totally could, or you could use cork, sewable cork. That would be really cool. I mean, there's basically no there are no rules here. You know, you can use denim, you could use canvas, you could use linen, like there are all kinds of different things that you could use. And yeah, so in this step, if I'm wanting to make this a little bit more of like a weighty bag, because this is, you know, it's just 2 layers of fabric. So it's not, it's definitely a light bag, but I would at this stage sometimes add in my batting here. So I would have like a layer of fabric with a layer of batting, and then the lining would go inside. So it would just add some thickness and make the fabric feel a bit thicker, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think vinyl would totally work. I've never actually sewn with vinyl, but I have sewn with cork, and that's really fun. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing with the lining here, and you want to just make sure that your pocket is facing the right direction, right? Like you want the pocket opening facing up. And then you want to use a little bit bigger of a seam allowance for the lining, since it's going to go inside the bag. So I'm going to do about 3/8 of an inch, just a little bit outside the edge of my there, and then I'll back stitch again. And then what's different about the lining is that we're not going to sew all the way around the 3 edges, or we are, but we're going to leave an opening at the bottom for turning. So let me go all the way down this. Okay. Sure that's together. Okay. So I'm going to sew about 1/3 of the way across the bottom here, and then back stitch. And again, this doesn't have to be super precise. You just want to leave a big enough opening so that you'll be able to pull the whole bag through the lining. So I'm going to leave about, what's that, maybe like 3 inches or so. And I'm going to start up again right over here. Same thing. And then go up.
Shar is asking, oh, you might be able to hear my toddler in the background. I apologize. Shar is asking, do you do any quilting on the areas? If you do batting in the bag, do you do quilting over those areas?
You totally can. I tend not to, just not for any real reason at all. Just because I'm just using the batting to add weight to the bag. But you absolutely could, to give it a different kind of look and quilting kind of look, for sure. I just prefer the batting to interfacing because I don't really love the way that the interfacing feels on the finished bag. It tends to make it kind of crinkly in my experience, but I'm sure that there are different kinds of batting that maybe I just haven't used that are not that way. Like I've heard of something called fleece batting that I've never used before, that might give it more of that, or fleece interfacing, I mean, sorry, that might give it more of that, you know, softer feel, less crinkly. Okay, so now we've got our liner here, and next we're going to attach the handles. So basically what's going to happen is we are going to place the outside of the bag. I'm just going to kind of demonstrate how this is going to work before I start attaching the handles. It's going to be attached like this. We're going to sew all around the top with the handles sandwiched in between like this. I hope that you can see this well enough. I'm not sure this is as visible as I would like it to be. So basically we're going to be sewing like this. And I'm going to measure it so it's in the proper place, but I'm trying to show how this is going to work. And then once the handles are attached on each side, we will pull the entire bag through this opening that we left in the liner. And then after, yeah, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so what we're gonna do is sew these handles into place on the outside of the bag. And so these can be like, this is your personal preference where you want these handles to go. I'm gonna measure about 3 inches. I have my chalk pencil here. I'm gonna measure about 3 inches in from each side, and that's where the edge of my handle is gonna go. Okay. And then I'm just going to place the edge there, and then you can clip it in place, pin it in place, whatever you prefer. I'm just going to put 1 clip on each side. And then for your handle, you want to make sure that you're not like twisting it or turning it, because that could make the handle a little bit funky. So you want it to look like that. And then I'm going to clip that in place. Okay, and then I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing. And you can either mark it, or again, you can just eyeball it and make sure that you're putting the same color facing outward. Or I guess you don't have to make sure if you want it to be, if you want the handles to be opposite, that's fine too. And so then you can just kind of look to make sure that they're going to be sewn in the same place. And then same here. And then you have a choice here. You can either, you can baste these handles on, which means I'm just using like a very long stitch to kind of loosely attach the handles to this outer edge of the fabric, or the outer part of the bag. Or I'm just going to do my best to kind of slip this whole thing inside the lining and then line it up and sew it all together. So I'm going to pin the edges together here so they stay in place. And that's a little, I've got some extra thread there. Okay, so let me pin these together. And we're just going to get it kind of all in place and then sew all around this top edge, including these handles. Okay, so pin this other, or clip this other edge here, edges together. Is this making sense to everybody? I hope this is not too, I hope I'm not making it very confusing.
I don't have any questions about this part yet. No
Okay.
questions yet. Alma says it's very soothing to watch you sew.
Wonderful. Oh my gosh. I feel like I might be giving people anxiety, so that's nice to hear. Okay, so now we're just going to very slowly sew all the way around the top here. And when I get to the handles, I'm going to do some extra stitching to reinforce it like we talked about. And then we'll turn it. We'll pull the lining through. Okay, so you can start anywhere. It doesn't really matter where you start, but you just, as you go, you want to go slowly and make sure that your handles are straight. I'm going to remove that clip and just hold it really snugly. Okay, so on the back stitch to get started.
Gabrielle is confirming the outer assembly and the liner are right sides together.
They are right sides together. Yes, you want the outside of the bag with the right sides out, inside the liner with the right sides facing. So that the liner is inside out right now. Does that make sense? This step, I feel like every time I make something like this, I have to remember how to do it. Okay, where does the liner go? Where does the, yeah, so it'll make sense once I pull it through. It'll be more clear. Okay, so I'm reinforcing this handle just by kind of doing some extra back and forth stitching. And then I'm going to make sure these are nice and sandwiched together. Keep going around the edges. And oops, hold on. clip. Okay, I'm going to remove this clip. Get this handle straightened out a little bit. This is where basting can help it just stay in place a little bit better, but just for the sake of time, I'm just winging it as I tend to do. Reinforce that one a little bit. Okay, I'm just going around this. Move that clip. Getting to the handles on the other side now. Move that clip and hold that snugly in place while I do it. Okay. Going. All right, we're almost finished here. Straighten that out. And flip. That one. Just about done sewing the top. I reach the other side, I'm going to back stitch to pivot it. And then we're going to pull the whole bag through this opening that we left in the bottom of the liner. This always feels like magic to me, how this works. And so then you just want to poke the corners of the liner out. Okay. And then just poke these out a little bit better. And the last step is going to be to close this opening that we left at the bottom. So again, you can press this if that works better for you, or you can just make sure that the edges are nice and folded under, and then simply close it up. So I'm going to back stitch on each side and slowly to make sure that it doesn't come apart. Okay. And then I'm not hooking my thread ends very well for the sake of time, but you can make that as perfect as you'd like. And then you just simply put the liner inside the bag and poke the corners together. And then how much time do we have? We're just about finished. So I think this is a good place to stop. But what I would probably do just to finish this up and to reinforce the handles a little bit is press this top edge where the handles are and sew a seam all the way around the top. That'll just make it look a little bit more finished and make it a little bit stronger. But for all intents and purposes, that is our bag. I think if you, Dana, if you want to switch back to my computer, I might be able to show this a little bit better. Can you see that?
It looks great.
Okay, and then you can see there's the pocket on the inside facing the right direction. And that's it.
Yay.
Ta-da! A bag. Super simple.
Lots of folks saying it looks great.
It is imperfect. And that's really the name of the game for me. Makes, excuse me, makes it look like somebody made it, right? And like it's not something that you bought in a store. So.
Well, and I think it's great. I mean, you showed that that bag can be made in 1 hour, start to finish, like handles and all. Yeah.
Handles and all. I mean, that definitely is the part that slowed me down for sure. So I think if you know, especially if you were using the webbing or something, you know, something else for the handles, that would make it go even faster because you could just skip that whole step. So yeah, and now, I mean, this can be used for anything, library books, groceries, day at the beach, like whatever. Very versatile. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for teaching the class. Oh, look at them.
There we go. Yeah, see?
Coordinate. Oh.
Yeah. Okay, and that's it.
All right. All right. So I'm going to share my screen again. Thank you again so much, Jessica. I'm just going to go over our last slide from the presentation. If you guys are not already fans of Jessica on various social media, you should follow her on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Her handles are right there. Jessica G. Swift on Facebook, Jessica Swift on Instagram and YouTube. So thank you so much again, Jessica. If anybody has questions for me about the class, you know, overarching the class, so when will you get the recording, etc., you can email me directly. It's dneald@primecp.com. events@primecp.com also reaches me. So feel free to reach out with any questions about the magazine, anything. And then I think the thumbnail is covering, let me move this around. Okay. Also, everybody who's attending the class today is automatically entered to win a giveaway. If you love the fabric that Jessica was using for the tote bag today, you're going to be entered to win a fat quarter bundle. It's called Path to Discovery by Jessica Swift for Art Gallery Fabrics. Art Gallery has generously provided a fat quarter bundle to give away for the class. So when I send the recap email tomorrow, you'll get it from Zoom. The winner's name will be in there. So we'll be picking the winner and emailing it out in order to ship you the prize. It is open to US residents only. I know we have folks from South Africa and Canada, etc. attending. I apologize. It's only open to US residents. So but yeah, good luck to the winner. And I hope you enjoy the fabric. It's beautiful. And I think that's everything. And yeah, look forward to the recording. Jessica, thank you again. This was wonderful.
Thank you so much. It was really fun.
Right, well, until next time, thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye.